Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m. for our special edition of Tell Me Your Story, and then Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. following the news. We stream live at those times right here on richarddugan.com. We also podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry. We're on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. We hope you'll subscribe and click notifications so that when I post a new conversation, and every week it's going to be nine of them, 9 conversations, 9 guests, 9 different topics. We hope that you will subscribe to all of them and also listen to them as they come up. We also encourage you to support what we're doing here. If you'd like to be a part of the work, we have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask you, to whom are you sending this to? Richard at richarddugan.com is the email address you want to use. That's Richard at richarddugan.com. One other thing. We talk about this every program. We ask you during this, the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to spend some time going within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place that no one else but you can get to. Isn't that nice? And listen to that still small voice. We hope you'll take time to do that. With all of that being said, we have a very special guest. They're all special guests. And our guest today is, now, I find it interesting that when I was a kid growing up, and probably through the 80s and 90s, she would be referred to as an actress. But here we are in the 21st century, and it doesn't matter what your gender is. You're just an actor. Just an actor. But it's nice to have Geri Jewell, who has Geri Jewels, and she has a book, Geri's Jewels and Gems by Geri Jewell. And she is, you will remember, I hope that you will. If not, Google it or go to YouTube and look up The Facts of Life, originally on NBC, and another series that I really enjoyed watching from the Old West, Deadwood. Geri, thank you for being with us here today. This is quite a pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Oh, it's mutual. Thank you for having me.
It's interesting how people, even myself, are coming out with different. We're writing our books. Some people, and I'm not being critical here, but there are some people who are in their 20s and writing their memoirs, and I'm sitting here going, "Wait a minute, okay, I understand that you maybe want to put that down, but that's volume 1." Because hopefully you still have another 40, 50, 60, 70 years to go. I don't even think I'm ready to write my memoirs. And I'm 64. So I'm curious if you've written yours yet, or if that's in the works somewhere down the road, or does Geri's Jewels and Gems contain sort of a memoir-ish kind of flavor?
Um, kind of. I actually wrote my memoir in 2011, and that was called I'm Walking as Straight as I Can.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a collection of columns that I wrote for Ability Magazine over a period of 6 years. And so it's a lot of variety of different topics. And I thought of it because when COVID hit and the California lockdown, and physically I'm challenged now. I mean, I've always been challenged. I have cerebral palsy, but now I'm dealing with other issues from CP and aging, and I can't get out there as frequently as I used to. And I thought, what can I do to inspire people and make people laugh and make people think? And so I thought of the column that I wrote for Ability, and I called the editor, Chet Cooper, and I asked him if I could do a coffee table book. And he said, sure, as long as you give Ability Magazine credit. And of course, it's a great magazine. It's still available online. But these were different topics. It's a fun book. It really is. It's not a memoir per se. It has topics ranging from There's one column I wrote, Congress needs a reboot.
Yes, I would
uh,
agree. I would agree.
uh, there's one about how to survive in the world. One about having a sense of humor. There's all different topics. There's one about having pets. There's one about
Mm.
my cat, Harry. There's all kinds of different topics in there, so it's not exactly an autobiography.
Mm.
I even wrote one column about my one experience of serving on jury duty, and I was never asked again.
Well, I was years ago selected for jury duty here in Santa Barbara. I appeared. We were all sitting, and they were going through the selection process. And of course, both the prosecution and defense lawyers, they're asking questions of each of the potential jurors, right?
Oh yeah,
Based upon the case, right?
yes.
So I'm listening to the questions. And as the questions come up from both sides, I'm sitting here going, oh, I see. So this gal is suing the city because blah, 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 blah. And I was already, if I had been selected to sit in the box to be questioned, I would have said, stood up and said, Your Honor, I've already decided she is not entitled because she refuses to take responsibility for her own actions. So I've already made up my mind. And this is all based upon the questions that were being asked. They weren't hypotheticals in that sense. So, but I was never asked. Um, you know, I know that a lot of people, and especially people who work, don't like to be selected for jury duty because, oh, I don't know, they work. So I can only imagine. Now, how old were you, if you can tell us, how old were you when you were selected?
You don't want to know.
Or let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. When were you selected? How many years ago?
I believe it was let me see. It was when I was living in Vegas, so it must have been 1993,
Okay.
and it was right after they had passed the ADA law.
Mm,
And so before the ADA law, I never was even considered. They wouldn't have a person with a disability on the jury.
mm,
But when the ADA law passed, all of a sudden, I'm asked to serve on the jury. And I had never had any experience because I was out of the loop for all those years prior.
mm.
So I didn't know what the process was.
Yeah.
And I got picked to serve.
Now, did you feel good about being picked, or oh no, now here's more time I'm going to waste. I really need to be doing other things because again, that's
Oh, no, it wasn't that. It was that I have 75% hearing loss. I wear hearing aids.
uh-huh.
And I did not trust that maybe I wouldn't hear something correctly, and I didn't want to accuse someone of something.
Right.
It was too scary for me. If I weren't hearing impaired, then I would have viewed it differently.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely. It would be the equivalent if I were still legally blind. I in '96 I had a lens implant in my right eye, and I'm now driving. Before that, they wouldn't let me behind the wheel, not for love or money. So you and I share a commonality from the standpoint of dealing with what I termed very early on. Sometime it may have been right around the time I got into broadcasting in 1979, but somewhere around that time where I said it wasn't a disability, it wasn't a handicap or anything. It was a perceived limitation. Okay. It's only a limitation if that's how you view it. And when I got into this business, one of the first things that I was really concerned about, because I was working for a station that had music hours, so we had to queue up records, and I'm thinking, how am I
Oh,
going to do that? Oh my gosh! And yet, after a period of time, I was able to queue up a record in about 5 seconds, and that's from getting it from the record rack to the turntable and the needle where it needed to be and queued up. Because
wow.
I figured, okay, if I have to get close, okay, even with glasses, if I have to get close, I'm going to get close. If I have to use a magnifying glass, that's what I'm going to do. Um, so I'm curious as to your view of Geri, in that you have done things that others either said out loud or implied through not allowing you to do certain things. No, I'm sorry, but we've selected someone else for whatever. Um, that it's like you have. First of all, I should give you a real brief. My first wife was not only legally totally blind, she also had cerebral palsy.
Oh, okay.
So I'm familiar with that particular aspect. As I said before, I was also legally blind from birth until 1996 when I was 36.
Wow.
So I've been around the communities. Oh, I love it. You're folks, if you're not looking at the YouTube, Geri's cat just entered the interview. We have that happen all the time, by the way. And I love it. I love they know, hey, this seems like something fun. I should be a part of this. That's
Her
very cool.
name is Kiki.
Peaches?
Kiki.
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 Very cool. Well, welcome, Kiki, to tell me your story. And down she goes. Uh, but let me but let me ask you about that aspect of I don't want to use the word discrimination per se, but more people felt that you had limitations that they didn't think you could overcome, and so they didn't pick you. Kind of like in school when it was sports. I was always picked last too, by the way.
Okay.
Talk to us about that.
Well, I've been very blessed that I've gotten as much work as I have in this industry over 4 decades now.
Hmm.
And but there were long periods of time where I had no employment between employment. And I couldn't go out and wait tables in the you know, you wouldn't want me as a waitress. You'd have to wear your meals. But I I had to think of a way to survive in an industry that wasn't going to employ me all the time and keep me, financially secure.
Hmm.
So, so I dipped my hand in a lot of different things, writing, and I trained Fortune 500 companies and government agencies in hiring people with disabilities and how to be in compliance with the ADA law,
Hmm.
and diversity training on the whole LGBTQ. So I've managed to preserve with not having a limited idea of what I could do. I had to expand, just like this book. It was something that I could do to make a difference and still deal with the issues that I have to deal with here.
Mm. There is a certain truth to the reality that everyone has a disability or perceived limitation. And I'll use the phrase that I just read this morning. You can't fix stupid. Uh, so that every parking space in a parking lot should be for the handicapped, because so many people just, it's like they're going through life in a daze or unconscious. And now I don't know if post COVID, if that's more true now than before the shutdown in 2020. But what I do know is that I'm seeing things and hearing things that shouldn't be. It's like, do you not know anything about common sense?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know, you started your career in stand-up, correct?
I did. I
And you were discovered by a rather famous individual, Norman Lear of television programs that I used to watch, like All in the Family. And by the way, there's there. You may be familiar also with a current program. I don't know if they're still making episodes, but Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? Well,
oh
Archie Bunker and All in the Family to me was sort of like that. Back then, I wasn't cringing when Archie would open his mouth. I can't watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. I have to go into the closet and close the door because it's that embarrassing for me to watch as he plays stupid throughout the program. And that's I know that's the character.
it
Uh,
is.
but but
It is.
Norman, he discovered you and gave you an opportunity to do something what that you had never had you ever thought of acting before Norman discovered you?
I I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be a comedic actress. I never wanted to be a stand-up comic, but that was a door open to me. That was the only way I could figure out to get in the industry.
Hmm.
I had a pen pal relationship with Carol Burnett from the time I was 12.
Wow.
And she always told me never to quit getting into acting in every capacity. She told me there was no guarantees in life. The important thing is to put out the effort and to try. I mean, a letter like that from Carol Burnett to a 12-year-old girl with CP was very powerful.
Hmm.
And anyway, I started doing stand up in 78. And then in 1980, I was asked to perform at the second annual Media Access Awards. And I was 23 at the time
Mm-hmm.
in seven in 1980. Yeah, I was 23. And Norman Lear came up to me after my show. I got a standing ovation. He came up to me and introduced himself. And he said, you're really funny, kid, but you're way before your time. I said, so wait a couple months. And he laughed. He was so amused by my response. He waited 2 months before he cast me on Fact Life.
It sounds a little bit like he was also saying because you have not just the comedic aspects about you, but also um, because you share with people in many of your public speakings and so forth about your perspectives on life and living and so forth. And I'm sure that they can be very profound at times that maybe he was also saying you're wise beyond your years. Do you kind of get that as well?
Ah, that's interesting. I never perceived it that way, but yeah, it could have been because we ended up being lifelong friends.
Yeah.
In fact, he wrote the foreword for my new book,
I yeah.
and Geri's Jewels and Gems. And I called him up on the phone and I said, I have a new book, Norman. And he said, wow, well, come on over, bring it over. So I went over to his house and I showed him the book and I said, like, I know you're really busy and you have a lot on your plate, but can you please write a forward for my book? It's a coffee table book, Norman. And he said, well, what if they don't have a coffee table?
Well,
And
did you ever see the episode of Seinfeld where Kramer he wrote a coffee table book and the legs on the book would flip out like a coffee table?
oh, I didn't see that
Oh
episode.
yeah, that was hilarious. So you had a coffee table book that turned into a coffee table. Talk to Talk to us a little bit about your early years, not so much in acting and comedy and stand up and so forth, but even before that, in terms of your upbringing, what was it like growing up? Because I know that certain conditions, certain disorders, certain attributes, if you will, sometimes develop. Was cerebral palsy diagnosed at birth?
Not exactly at birth. I was born in Buffalo, New York. That was my first disability. And at that time, 1956, I was born. The most progressive hospital and doctors in birth defects were at UCLA. So basically, my parents sacrificed their whole life, picked up their lives, my brother's life, my older brothers, and moved to California so I could get diagnosed at UCLA at 18 months old.
Mm.
And I was very lucky that I was diagnosed that young because sometimes when you get diagnosed too late, you don't get the therapies and intervention that you need immediately. I mean, I learned how to swim before I even learned how to walk.
And that probably helped your mobility, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The only negative part of it was that I was trapped in the special ed system. I mean, once you're in that system, it's hard to get out. So academically and intellectually, there was no reason for me to be there. But on the same token, I got the best physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy you could get. I mean, kids today with disabilities aren't getting half the therapies that I got when I grew up. And that was a big plus in my physical development.
Mm. I know that my it was this is how it was described. My first wife's excuse me, mobility, and when she walked, she had what they referred to as a scissor gait, and so she kind of
I
waddled.
know what that is. Yep.
Yeah, and yet we would jump on a tandem, a bicycle built for two, and we'd bicycle all over Phoenix. One Saturday we had signed up for this. One Saturday we both jumped on that and we rode from our home in West Phoenix all the way into East Phoenix, and I want to say we met up with a group of people bicycling in Scottsdale, and we're talking it had to have been, I'm just guessing here, 10 or 15 miles just to get to the starting point where we then bicycled another 60 miles that day on a bicycle built for two. And
Oh
she,
my
yeah.
God.
And I used to joke with her a little bit about not pedaling, but she was always pedaling. She was always putting her all into it. And I was most appreciative of that. And it was a lot of fun. I still remember those days, bicycling all over Phoenix and in traffic and what have you. But we didn't do what a lot of cyclists do today out there in the second or third lane. No, we always stayed by the curb. We always stayed by the curb and so forth. But traffic was a little different back then. Now, let me tell you. Um,
Yes, it was.
how is your mobility today? Because I'm remembering scenes from Facts of Life that you were in, and I'm not recalling whether or not you had any mobility issues back then.
I didn't really. There wasn't anything I couldn't do. I had my special gait, you know,
I love it.
and the involuntary movement, my arms
Hmm.
and my head moving all over the place. The only reason my head doesn't move anymore is I broke my neck in 99.
Oh,
And, and now my neck is 45% titanium. So
wow.
I know.
My yeah.
But before I busted my neck, I could do anything. I rode a bike, I rode a skateboard, I went out swimming in the ocean. I did everything.
I got to tell you, only been out into the ocean swimming once. I've been asked by my present wife not to do that because of the potential contaminants that might be out there. And of course, I'm not a pessimist in that regard. I'm an optimist, thinking, no, I'm fine, and hopefully I stay that way. um, I know that being in the water for a lot of conditions can be extremely helpful, as you were talking about earlier. I mean, you learn to swim before you learn to walk,
Yes.
and I mean, I haven't been swimming in a long time, other than that one time. My goodness, going back, oh heavens, 16, 17 years. I've lived here in Santa Barbara 18 years, but 16, 17 years ago was the last time I actually uh, went up to my neck, as it were, just wading around. But I love being by the water. What part are you living in California, in the Los Angeles area now?
Yes, I am.
And do you get to the ocean very often? Do you like going?
I wouldn't dare because of my neck.
Well, I don't mean necessarily swimming, but just going out and being close to the water.
Oh, yes, of course. I love the ocean.
Mm.
Um, I have a pool um, here at the building where I live, and I have I get in there to exercise a little bit, but it's not as enjoyable as it was when I was younger because, when you swim and you have to turn your head left and right, well, my head can't do that.
Oh, can
So it took away a lot of my swimming ability.
one final note on that. Can you float on your back?
No.
Yeah, me neither. My eldest sister, she was a master at that. I basically tell people I can float in the water face down. I'm real good at that. But forget about it on because I guess I just tense up too much, and that's one of the things you have to let go. You got to relax.
Yeah,
Um,
you do.
I want to ask you a little bit about your upbringing again, only from a different perspective. What philosophy or philosophies were you raised with as a kid growing up?
Well, truthfully, I was raised Catholic, but
Hmm.
I didn't get hearing aids until years and years and years later. And so every time I went to church, I never heard anything they said.
Let me just say, you're lucky.
I am lucky. I mean, I would watch people, and if they knelt, I knelt. If they got up, I got up. If they turned the page, I turned the page. But
Sounds like a workout at a gym,
really,
you know?
but it was a blessing in disguise because I have no religious affiliation at all. I am totally 100% spiritual.
Okay.
And I think I get that from when I was born, I had a very traumatic birth, and I was born at 6 months instead of 9 months. And I was put into an incubator for 3 months.
Wow.
And at that time, they didn't believe that preemies should be touched by humans. So I had no
Wow.
human contact for 3 months. I mean, when nurses handled me, they had to wear gloves. Um, so I wonder what kept me alive in a glass box for
Mm.
3 months. It was definitely a higher spiritual realm that I was
Hmm.
communicating with because there's no other reason why I could have lived in that circumstance. And I think I was born with the ability to survive from day one. I wasn't expected to live. I kept losing weight. I weighed 3 pounds, and then when I got down to 2 pounds, they called my parents and told them to come down to the hospital at 4 in the morning and get me baptized because I wasn't going to live when by
Mm.
the time the sun came up. Surprise!
Oh,
Yes,
my
I
heavens.
did. I was allergic to everything. I couldn't hold anything down. The thing that saved my life at that time was a doctor said, well, give her banana. That'll put weight on her. Maybe she can keep banana down.
Hmm.
And I lived on banana for the first 3 months of my life. That's all I had. And
Hmm.
luckily, it was the Chinese year of the monkey.
I was kind of thinking the same thing there. So that's pretty good. That's
And
pretty
I
good.
hate bananas now.
No, well, it's the way it
I
goes.
hate the smell of them. I hate the taste.
You had your fill as a child.
Yes.
You ate your allotment, and that's all you're going to eat. And don't even take me to the zoo to show me the monkeys at lunchtime.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
S-
monkeys. I just I like bananas.
so where are you philosophically now? I mean, you say you're spiritual. Is there a particular philosophy that you lean more into than another? I mean, I was born a Roman Catholic as well. I was exposed to the Byzantine rite of the Catholic Church, the Eastern Rite, through my first wife. I experienced a church service of the Mormons, the Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints, because they were neighbors of ours. They were next door neighbors of ours.
Okay.
I was a Baha'i for a year and a half, very eclectic, searching and so forth and so on. So what do you lean into more than anything else, or how eclectic is your philosophical leanings?
I embrace love and acceptance and courage and kindness and the visions that we have in our head, we attract to us what we believe.
Hmm.
And I just I'm not judgmental of people because of they may believe something different than me. That's okay.
Hmm.
Whatever. But don't judge me because I remember someone said to me once a long time ago in the 80s, said, you know, I, I'm really sorry that you have cerebral palsy, Jerry, but you know, Satan did this at random, so don't take it personally. And I was like, that just made me laugh a little because I've never looked at my disability as something evil or something that was done to me because I was bad or whatever. In fact, it's been one of my greatest blessings in life because it synthesized me. It gave me a realm of understanding of life that I wouldn't understand otherwise.
Well, I worked for 15 years in the early part of my career for a Christian radio station. And about halfway through that, I had some people come up to me, some of the programmers, wanting to pray for me, lay hands on me, and heal my eyesight.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing I can do about you praying for me, but no, thank you. My purpose in life is not to have my vision healed. Plus the fact that when I came into this world, I had three conditions of cataract, bilateral cataracts, nystagmus, and stigmatism, i.e., legal blindness. I said, my purpose in life is to serve you, to take care of, to meet your needs as far as, in terms of the programmer and your program and what you're putting on the air, whether it's a prayer program or a ministry program or what have you, again, in that context, and so forth. Have you discovered in this blessing, as you describe it, I mean, if someone were to come to you and say, "Hey, we'd like to heal you," what would your response be to something like that? Considering what you've already said about it.
Well, actually, there was a program with Tammy Faye Baker and Jim Baker
Yes.
way back
Praise the Lord. Yeah. I
when.
remember. I remember.
And I was struggling financially. And my friend said, "Well, why don't you do the Jim and Tammy Baker show?" I said, "I can't because I don't agree with what they're doing." And and they said, "But they pay you for your testimony." So so I wrote my philosophy to them and told them that I went to church with Lisa Welchel, which I did. I did go to church with Lisa several times back then, so I didn't perceive it as a lie.
Hmm.
And and then they called me and said, "Geri, we are really disappointed in you." I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because we called Pastor Jack and you're not a member of his church." I said, "You never asked me if I was a member of the You asked me if I went
Oh
there."
my heavens.
And basically what they said was that they were very disappointed. They decided not to have me on the show, and we're going to pray for you that Jesus comes into your life and changes your life. And I said, "Well, I'm really grateful that you want to pray for me, and that's fine. But I just want you to know that Jesus is already in my life, and He doesn't want me to do your show anyway." And
That's interesting because in the early 90s, I was introduced to the Baha'i faith. And at one point in that year and a half, I was going to become a Baha'i. So I thought I need to remove my name from the rolls of the church, the Catholic church that I was born and raised in. So I go to the rectory and I had this letter of request that my name be removed. And the response I got was, "We'll put it in your file." To which I said, and I did say this to them, I said, "So you and the FBI have a file on me?" Needless to say, my name was never removed. But after the year and a half, and this was one of those situations where uh, shall we say, my integrity, I don't want to say kicked in, but it really spoke to me because when I was in the process of making that final step to become a member, if you will, I couldn't take that step. And so I called the couple who had introduced me, whose home I had gone into numerous times over that year and a half. I said, I can't do it. And I cannot in good conscience continue on, because I can't make that final step. And to which they said, "That's fine. You don't have to, and we will take your name off of our list, but you are welcome to come back anytime." Now, I still have all of the books that I collected during that time, but with the phrase that sticks with me, and I love what you said in regards to Jim and Tammy, the phrase that sticks to me from the founder of the Baha'i faith, Baha'u'llah: "If you reject one of the messengers of God, you reject them all. If you accept one of the messengers of God, you accept them all." Because it's less about the messenger and more about the message.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So my heart, I still have a soft spot in my heart for the Baha'i faith, as well as many other iterations, if you will. I refer to them as philosophies because that's kind of what they are. And I consider myself a metaphysician. You consider yourself spiritual. And what I find so fascinating in this conversation we're having is, in one aspect, how similar you and I are. Now, I never had cerebral palsy. My first wife did, so I've experienced it secondhand. But also, I'm very mindful. I was very mindful. Um, I'm curious about relationships you've had over the years, and how people that you've brought into your life, maybe on an intimate level, how they have received you.
I I'm very blessed. I have very good close friends. I was married for 10 years to a man named Richard.
See?
Another Richard. Huh? And I I love the person. I love, you know, I think that I was always attracted to women from an early age, but I never really identified that because I was in special ed. You know,
Mm.
they never pushed sexuality training in special ed. They didn't want you to know about it. So I would say that I am attracted to love and kindness, whether it be a man, a woman, or a giraffe. I'm kidding.
I know, I know. And besides, in addition to all of that, you'd then have to get yourself a nice tall ladder. But that's another subject for another program. We're talking with Geri Jewell, and we're talking about her latest book that is out there, and we hope that you'll get a copy of it. And it is called Geri's Jewels and Gems by Geri Jewell. Um, what website would we send people to find out more about, as well as I'm sure it's available on Amazon, but they would obviously it would be great for them to go through your website to get there. But what website would that be that we'd want to send people to?
GeriJewell.com. Real simple.
Excellent. Excellent. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Um, by the way, we will be linked to your website as well. We'll have it on our site as well, that people can go there and find out more about you and so forth. But I hope they'll get a copy of your book and
Well,
so forth.
I am doing a launch at the Barnes and Noble at the Grove on August 7th. And if they go to the Barnes and Noble and click on my name, they can get a book and get a reserved seat for that launch on August 7th.
And
And Norman Lear gave me his last gift that he gave me was to write the forward for the book. And it's a beautiful forward. It's a
mm,
big book, it's a fun book. He loved the book. He called me after he read it and said it was great. He enjoyed it,
mm,
every single page.
very cool. Very cool indeed. Um, I think it's remarkable how not and I'm not being patronizing here by any means, because I'm going to rephrase this. It's remarkable how you have helped other people who struggle with the challenges that they have in their lives, while you're just as challenged with with what's going on in your life.
Of
A-
course.
and I applaud you for that support that you are giving to people, and that seems to have come to you naturally, hasn't it?
Yes, yes. I mean, I got Deadwood because I ran into David Milch in a pharmacy and he wrote his phone number on a prescription pad for an antidepressant.
Ah, yes, we're all dealing with stuff, and sometimes we need a little help. Sometimes we need a little help.
I mean, it wasn't my agent who got me Facts of Life or Deadwood. It was just me being there in the right place at the right time. And I firmly believe that if we get out of our own way, we do a lot better in our lives. One of the hardest lessons for me in life is to stop second guessing myself,
Hmm.
because every time I second guess myself, I get in trouble. Just go with your first thought and go with it.
Mhm. I mentioned earlier about the decade of perfect vision. Now, it started out in September of 2019 promoting the year of perfect vision 2020. But when that was over, we shifted to a whole decade, the 2020s, and we encourage people to spend time going within
Yes,
and listening to that still small voice. Talk to us about your experiences with your own, however you phrase it, gut feeling, intuition, etc.
I look at it as a spiritual pilot light. It's a pilot light within us. And sometimes the flame is high, sometimes it's low. But what we have to do is not ever let that pilot light go out. Even when it's low, still believe in yourself. No matter what other people believe about you, the important thing and what's going to carry you through life is what you believe about yourself.
Mm. And
And
if I may ask, what do you believe about yourself today in the 21st century?
I believe that I came into the world to make a difference, to bring light and lightness to situations. I mean, if you think about it, Deadwood was a dark show, and you know it. Deadwood was totally dark. But David Milch's vision for me was to bring lightness to a dark show, and that's exactly what my character did.
Mm.
I mean, the season finale, the Deadwood movie that we did, I had to sing Waltzing Matilda
Oh,
to Swearingen. And my God, I didn't know I could even sing. I had to sing that song over and over again before I got it right.
so so will we see you anytime soon on American Idol or America's Got Talent or The Voice?
Oh no. I got in chorus once when I was, I think I was 11, and I never opened my mouth during the rehearsals, but when it came for the parents to come and hear us sing, I decided, okay, I'm going to sing. And my dad told me that he was standing in the back, and this man turned to him and he said, I could swear there's a kid up there, because the song was Born Free that we were singing.
Hmm.
And he said, I could swear there's a kid up there singing Humphrey. And my dad smiled and he said, yeah, I know who that kid is. Because I asked him later, I said, why would they write a whole song about Herbert Humphrey?
I like that. I like that. That's a nice twist. I mean, we've all done this. Okay. We've all done this. We've listened to songs on the radio, and we sing along. And the next thing you know, we maybe will buy the album or the CD, what have you. We'll get the lyrics and we'll realize, oh, those weren't the lyrics. Those weren't, I've been singing it wrong all this time.
Yes. I mean, YouTube, where they have the lyrics next, I'm learning that over half the songs I loved as a kid were anything what I thought they were. Oh,
And then there are some songs. The one that just came to my mind, I don't know the title of it, but My Sharona. That's the name of the song. Um, I have no clue as to the line. It kind of goes like, a douchen in the night or something. I don't know what the heck that phrase is, and it doesn't really matter. What's really sad for me is I'm a huge fan of the late John Denver, and
Oh,
in one of
yeah.
his one of his songs, he's along the lines of and it would pain a man if he never saw. The line is an eagle fly. But until I saw the lyrics roll up on Spotify one day, and we're talking, I've been a fan of his for 50 years, 55 years.
Both of us.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I've been singing it wrong all this time. And so now whenever the song comes up, I go, an eagle fly, I don't even remember what I used to say, but
And speaking of John Denver,
yes,
what an incredible person of peace and light. That is what he created. That is what he did. And you could still get that from his music. He left that with us.
yes. Matter of fact, what I have found so fascinating, my three favorite artists, among many, Harry Chapin and Dan Fogelberg, as well as John, their music and the profundity of the lyrics is as poignant today
Yes,
in the world in which we live as it was then.
absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know, it's really, to me, it's really fascinating. We're talking with Geri Jewell and Geri's Jewels and Gems by Geri Jewell, with the foreword by Norman Lear. And she, of course, is of the Facts of Life and the Deadwood series, if you will. And we're very excited about having her on the program to talk about her life and the things that she's gone through. Um, I mean, it's impossible, obviously, to go maybe a moment or a day without without the awareness of, yes, these are the conditions. I have a very low hearing, and I have cerebral palsy, and da 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 da. But does that really? Because when I was going through broadcasting and working for the different stations, somebody came up to me one day when I whipped out the old magnifying glass to read something. And they said, I didn't know you used a magnifying glass. To which I said, oh, yeah, I'm legally blind. They said, I didn't know that. And I'd been working with this person, whether they were a programmer or somebody else, for years. And they weren't even aware, in spite of the fact that it wasn't something I was trying to hide per se. But what do you, does it cross your mind, or is it like, hey, this is who I am? And you don't really think about it. You just live your life and you have fun.
My friends tell me that they forget. They forget after 2 minutes with me. And then when I'm struggling with someone, with something, they're like, oh, I didn't realize you needed help with that. Yeah, I do. Uh, but when I go out in public, and if you don't know me, so many people think that I'm on drugs or drunk or whatever. So I get a lot of stares, and I don't know if it's from that or if it's because they know me from television, but people stare at me for one reason or another. I remember when I was a little kid, my big brother David told me to go get some frozen dinners for us for dinner. So I went into the grocery store, and they were frozen to the back of the freezer. So I climbed into the freezer and over the loudspeaker, somebody said, "There's a kid on drugs in the freezer in the frozen fruit section."
I'm curious as to whether you've had any experiences with, um, obviously being pot being legal pretty much across the country now from state to state. I myself, growing up in grade school, high school, and of course I knew that my peers were imbibing. It never interested me. It wasn't that it was illegal or harmful. It was just, I'm not interested. What about you? You ever have any experiences in that regard?
I'm not a drinker. I may have a glass of wine maybe 4 or 5 times a year. But I do like the gummy bears for chronic pain. The marijuana gummy bears
Hmm.
and the pain patches. So, but I've never. Well, I did smoke pot once when I did a Cheech and Chong movie. I did a Cheech and Chong movie before I even did Facts of Life, and I got my SAG card with a Cheech and Chong film.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and but I hate pot. I hate the smell of it. I don't smoke it, but the gummies and the pain patches and the oils are wonderful for chronic pain that I use
Hmm.
now.
Hmm. I've tried it twice, probably within a 24-hour period. Never tried it again. We're going back probably 25 years, maybe more. And it burned my throat to the extent that I didn't like it at all. And the buzz that I got was no different than if I had had a couple of beers. So I figured I'll save my throat and just get me a couple of cans of Bud Light. So may I ask, what were you going to say? Go ahead.
Well, thank God I never really got into that because it can be, um, it can bring people down.
Yeah.
I mean, when, the involuntary movement and the muscle spasm from CP, alcohol does relax that, but I have no interest. I don't even like
Mm.
to drink. I drank a little bit when I was younger, and it was never a good experience.
Mm. Well, that's interesting that we have these experiences in our lives that and I don't know whether it's divine intervention or what, but we'll have those experiences that basically tell us as an individual, that's not for me. And we don't go there again because we know I don't want to do that. I personally, regardless of what it is, even alcohol, I don't like being out of control. I don't know if that has anything to do with OCD or something like that. I just don't like not being able to get myself, if you will, from point A to point B.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I
yeah. We're
I'm
talking.
I'm
Please go
the
ahead.
I'm the same way, and I probably am OCD too. I took my cat to the vet for the first time, and the
Hmm.
vet said your cat is OCD. I said, "What? My cat is
Really?
OCD?" Yeah, I was like,
That's
"What?" And I guess she is because she does
wow.
everything repeatedly.
Yeah.
She
Well,
has a certain way she has to do things.
cats I can understand. All right. But we have a dog. I don't, and he is a little on the OCD side because he's got this cycle he goes through between we have this ring on a chain next to the door of the front and back doors, and you put the ring on the doorknob so that you can't open the door, right? Well, we usually have it hanging down. He'll go over, hit it with his nose to tell us either A, I want a cookie, or B, I want to go outside.
Yep.
99% of the time, it's I want a cookie. And he does that in the morning around 5:30 in the morning. And unless I get up and get him a cookie, and then unless I get up and let him outside, he barks and carries on until, and then in the evening, it's the same thing before we all settle down to go to sleep. He'll do the same thing. So I think there's just a little OCD in the dog too. So yeah, it's
Well,
really remarkable.
Richard, it's been really enjoyable. I have to go because I have another interview coming up.
All
And
right. Then let me ask you the final three questions. They're very quick. Thank you so much for giving us so much time. The first of those is, who is Geri Jewell?
Geez. I already told you who I am. You want to know again?
We can leave it at that. That's up to you. And I'll move on to question 2, which is, what gets you up in the morning?
What gets me up in the morning?
Mhm.
My cat.
All right. And finally, what was your best day?
What was my best day?
Mhm.
My best day. Oh God, there's so many. I have had so many best days.
Mm,
Um, my mind is going all over the place because there's so many to choose from.
mm. Well, I thank you for giving us so much time here on the program. I know you've got to run as well, but I thank you. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Keep up the good work, and we will continue to follow you along the way.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
And I thank you folks for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to all. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.